Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. My wife told me I needed to think about my mistakes while she went on a girls' trip. She was absolutely right. I just did not think about the mistakes she expected me to. Let me paint the picture of what my life had become. We are Black Americans, all of us in this story. Every morning began the same way. I woke up at 6 o'clock, made coffee, and braced myself for whatever crisis would somehow become my fault before I finished my first cup. Tuesday mornings were the worst, because that was when she reviewed the ways I had disappointed her over the weekend. "You did not take out the trash Monday night," she would say, arms crossed like a prosecutor presenting exhibits. I had to drag those heavy bags to the curb by myself. Never mind that I worked a 10-hour shift Monday and came home to find her watching a series. Never mind that I had taken the trash out every other week for 3 years straight. One forgotten Monday turned me into the villain of her personal drama. Here's the thing about living with someone who is never wrong. You start picking your battles. Not because you are weak, but because you realize your time on this planet is limited. Arguing with someone who twists every conversation into your personal failings gets exhausting very quickly. "You are right," I would say, grabbing my work bag. "I will remember next time." She would smile like she had won a grand victory, missing entirely that I was not conceding. I was choosing peace over pointless conflict. This pattern had been our reality for 2 years. Every disagreement circled back to my shortcomings. When the dishwasher broke, it was because I loaded it wrong. When her car got a flat tire, it was because I did not remind her to check the pressure. When her sister called her dramatic, that was obviously my influence rubbing off on her. The worst part was that I began believing some of it. When you hear the same criticisms day after day, they echo in your head, even when she is not around. Maybe I was the problem. Maybe I truly was not trying hard enough. But last week, something shifted. It was not a dramatic, cinematic moment. It was a quiet realization that hit me while I sat in traffic after another brutal day at work. I was dreading going home. Think about that. I dreaded walking into my own house, because whatever mood she was in would become my responsibility to fix. And if I could not fix it, that would just be another item on her endless list of my inadequacies. That was when she dropped the announcement about the girls' trip. "I need a break," she said Thursday night without looking up from her phone. "Rochelle and the girls are going to Miami Beach next weekend. I am booking my ticket." "Okay," I said, and I meant it. Time apart might be good for both of us. But she was not finished. "I have been so stressed lately, and I think I know why." Here we go, I thought, but I kept my face neutral. "What is that?" "It is this constant tension in the house. Your energy has been so negative. You come home from work grumpy and distant, and it affects my mental health." I almost laughed. My energy was negative. I was the one walking on eggshells every day, measuring my words, trying not to step on a hidden landmine. "While I am gone, you should think about what you are bringing to this relationship," she continued, finally looking at me with her perfected expression, part disappointment, part pity. "Maybe time alone will help you figure out where you have been going wrong." There was. Even her vacation was somehow about my failures. "That sounds like a good idea," I told her. I'm in every word, just not in the way she thought. She spent the next 3 days planning her escape, calling it self-care and healing time. I watched her pack designer clothes for a trip that would cost more than many people's monthly rent, all while lecturing me about being mindful of our budget. The irony was not lost on me. Pointing it out would only trigger another lecture about how I did not support her need for mental health breaks. Sunday morning arrived, and she stood by the door with her oversized suitcase, looking like she was heading off to save the world instead of to sit in the sun with cocktails. "Remember what I said," she told me, adjusting her sunglasses. "Think about your mistakes while I am gone. I will be ready to talk when I get back, but I need to see real accountability from you." I walked her to her ride, kissed her cheek, and said exactly what she wanted to hear. "Safe travels. I will definitely be thinking about my mistakes." She smiled, satisfied that she had left me with homework to become a better husband. As I watched her car disappear, I realized she was right about one thing. I didn't need to think about my mistakes, starting with the biggest one I had ever made. The silence hit me before I made it back to the front door. Not the uncomfortable silence I had grown used to, the kind that meant I had said something wrong or failed to read her mood. This was different. This was the absence of constant criticism, The missing soundtrack of sighs and eye rolls that had become the background music of my life. I stood in the doorway, keys still in my hand, and felt something I had not experienced in months. Relief. For the next 5 days, no one would tell me I had loaded the dishwasher on. No one would analyze my tone when I said good morning. No one would turn my bad day at work into evidence of my poor attitude. My phone buzzed. A text from her at the airport. Flight delayed an hour. Already stressed. This is exactly the kind of thing that would not happen if I was not so anxious from everything at home. Even her travel delays were my fault. I waited for the familiar guilt to kick in, the automatic response where I scrambled to make things better. Instead, I felt something else. Clarity. I walked into the kitchen and made a sandwich the way I liked it. White bread, regular mayonnaise. I ate standing at the counter and let a few crumbs fall. I did not rush to wipe them away. Another text arrived. Boarding now. Remember what we talked about. This week needs to be productive for both of us. Productive, as if our marriage were a quarterly performance review. I replied, have a great time. Enjoy the sun. Why did not type? Thank you for the space to realize what I actually need to be productive about. She had been gone fewer than 3 hours, and I already saw things differently. Without her constant commentary, I could think, and what I was thinking was not pretty. When had I become this person? When had I started apologizing for things that were not my fault? When had I decided that peace mattered more than my self-respect? I thought about the dinner party last month. One of her college friends made a passive-aggressive comment about our house being cozy, meaning small. Instead of defending our home, I agreed with every criticism, practically apologizing for our mortgage being what we could afford. Later that night, Alicia was furious, not at her friend's rudeness, but at me for not being more successful, for not providing a lifestyle that would impress her circle. Sometimes I wonder if you're even trying, she said, lying in bed with her back to me. I stared at the ceiling in the dark, wondering what more I could possibly do. I worked 50-hour weeks, handled most of the household repairs, and never complained when she spent money on things we did not need. Somehow I was the one not trying hard enough. Sitting in my quiet kitchen now, I realized how absurd that conversation had been. She criticized me for not making enough money to impress a friend who had inherited a house from her parents. The logic did not add up, but in the moment I accepted it because arguing would mean more conflict. My phone buzzed with a photo. Alicia and her friends at the airport bar, all smiles and cocktails. Caption: first drink of freedom. Freedom from what? From the man who worked hard to pay for half of this trip? From the man who never told her she could not go anywhere or do anything? I knew what she meant. Freedom from reality. Freedom from acknowledging that relationships require work from both people. I laughed at the absurdity. She was celebrating being away from the person she said was the source of her stress, but for the first time in months, I could breathe normally. The house felt larger. Not just quieter, larger, as if her presence had been taking up physical space. I walked through each room and saw the museum our home had become. Throw pillows no one could sit on, coffee table books no one could open, candles too expensive to burn. Another buzz, a group photo on the plane. Taking off. Time to reset and recharge. Some people need to figure out how to do the same from home. Some people. Not even my name. I set the phone down and looked in the bathroom mirror. The man looking back at me seemed tired. Not just work tired, but soul tired. My shoulders were hunched, braced for the next criticism. I made a decision that had been building for months. She wanted me to think about my mistakes. Fine, but I would think about the real ones. Mistake number 1. Believing that love meant accepting disrespect. Mistake number 2. Thinking a woman who needed a vacation from me was someone worth fighting for. Day 1, without her commentary, felt like taking off shoes that had been too tight for years. I woke at 7 instead of 6. No rush to make coffee before she complained about noise. I sprawled on the couch I usually perched on, feet up, remote in hand. I watched sports highlights on television for 30 minutes. By noon I had done something I had not done in 2 years. I had gone an entire morning without apologizing. When was the last time I went 6 hours without saying sorry? For breathing too loudly? For leaving a water glass on the counter? For not immediately agreeing with whatever opinion she had picked up from her latest podcast? My phone stayed quiet until afternoon. Then, each day, this is exactly what I needed. Finally feeling like myself again. If she felt like herself away from me, what did that make me? The obstacle to her being herself. The truth was that I felt like myself again, too. Tuesday morning, I called in sick. I was not sick. I needed time to think. For once, I would put my own needs first. I drove to a diner downtown, the one Alicia hated because it was not trendy. I ordered a full breakfast with extra bacon and sat by the window with a newspaper. The waitress did not critique my order. No one analyzed my posture. No one questioned whether I deserved to take up space. I began making a mental list, not of my supposed failures, but of facts about my marriage. Fact 1. I had not chosen anything in our house in 3 years. Not the furniture, not the paint, not even the brand of laundry detergent. Fact 2. I cannot remember the last time she asked about my day and actually listened. I could, however, recite every detail of her drama with coworkers, family, and a yoga instructor who apparently gave everyone else better adjustments. Fact 3. Every vacation, every dinner out, every weekend plan revolved around what she wanted. When had I stopped having preferences? When had I become the man who made her choices possible? The more I thought, the clearer it became. This was not a rough patch. This was the marriage she wanted. She was the star, and I was the supporting cast member who must not forget his lines. Wednesday brought another beach photo, this time with a man I did not recognize, his arm around her shoulders. Making new friends. It is so nice to be around positive energy. I was not jealous. If a random tourist wanted to deal with her constant need for validation, he could have it. I was too busy remembering what 48 hours without criticism felt like. That evening, I did something that would have triggered a 3-hour argument if she had been home. I ordered pizza and ate it straight from the box while watching an action movie with the volume turned up. No commentary about the plot, no sighs about the mess, no lecture about how we should have meaningful conversations instead of watching screens. By Thursday, the truth was impossible to ignore. Every day without her criticism, I felt more like myself, more confident, more relaxed, more willing to take up space in my own life. She had been gone 4 days, and I had not missed her. I missed the idea of her, the person I thought I married before she turned marriage into a permanent performance review. Thursday night, I sat down with a regular beer, not the craft brand she insisted were more sophisticated, and thought carefully about her assignment. Mistake number 1. Marrying someone who believed love was a constant evaluation. Mistake number 2. Accepting that my feelings rank below her comfort. Mistake number 3. Believing that being a good husband meant disappearing into whatever she needed. The biggest mistake, staying silent for 2 years while she convinced me I was the problem in a relationship where only one person's happiness mattered. I realized something that should have been obvious months ago. I did not want to fix this marriage. I wanted out, not out of anger. Anger fades, not out of revenge. Revenge would only mirror her. I wanted out because I deserved better than a lifetime of apologizing for existing. She wanted me to find a solution while she was gone. I had found one. It was simply not the solution she expected. Friday morning, I made a phone call. Whitaker Law Group. How can I help you? I need to speak with someone about filing for divorce. Friday afternoon, I sat across from an attorney named Ms. Whitaker, a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who had probably heard every excuse and story. How long have you been married? She asked. 3 years next month. Children? No. Shared assets. I listed them like inventory. The house we bought together, 2 cars, checking and savings accounts, her student loans that had become our debt after the wedding. Any documented history of abuse, infidelity, or abandonment. No, I said, then paused. Unless you count emotional manipulation, but I doubt that shows up on paperwork. It does not, she said, but it shows up in how you handle the proceedings. You sound like you've thought this through. I had. I had been thinking it through longer than I admitted to myself. Any chance of reconciliation? I thought about the beach photos, the celebration of being away from me, the 2 years of being told I was the source of every problem. None whatsoever. She handed me a packet. Read these tonight. If you are serious, bring them back Monday with a retainer. No fault divorce in this state. Unless she contests, you could be free in 90 days. 90 days. 3 months to undo 3 years of slowly losing myself. That evening, my phone buzzed with her nightly update. Girls' night out dancing until dawn. Finally remembered what fun feels like when you are not walking on eggshells around someone's negativity. The irony was dense enough to cut with a knife. I had spent 2 years walking on eggshells around her moods and criticisms. I replied, "Glad you're having fun. Enjoy your last night." She likely assumed I meant her last night in Miami Beach. I meant something else. Saturday morning, I did something I had not done since our honeymoon. I made a list of what I actually wanted. A quiet house where I could watch what I wanted on television. Beer in the refrigerator without a lecture. Friends who were not analyzed and criticized after every hangout. The ability to come home from work without scanning the room for signs of what I'd done wrong. It was not a long list. Every item was impossible with her in my life. By noon, I started practical preparations. I opened a new checking account at a bank she never used. I transferred half our savings, my half, earned from work she never acknowledged. I called a college buddy, Corey, who had gone through a divorce 2 years earlier. "Are you sure about this?" he asked after I explained. "I have never been more sure of anything." "What changed your mind?" "She went on vacation to get away from me. I realized I need a permanent vacation from her." He laughed, not cruelly. "I remember that feeling, like you had been holding your breath for years and finally remembered how to exhale." That was exactly how it felt. Sunday afternoon brought the predictable pre-return text. "Flying home tomorrow morning. Hope you had time to really think. We need to have a serious conversation. I have some thoughts about what needs to change." What needs to change? Not what we need to do together. What needs to change, meaning me. Sunday evening, I organized paperwork, bank statements, mortgage documents, insurance policies. I wanted her to understand this was not a negotiation or a trial separation. This was the end. I also did something that felt petty and necessary. I changed the streaming password. I was tired of my viewing history being interrupted by her reality shows and true crime documentaries. Monday morning, I returned to Ms. Whitaker's office with signed papers and a cashier's check. "You seem calmer than most people starting divorce proceedings," she observed. "That is because I am not starting anything. I am finishing something that should have ended a long time ago." She handed me copies. "She will be served within 48 hours. Are you prepared for her reaction?" I thought about 2 years of reactions to minor disagreements and forgotten chores. I have been preparing for her reactions for 3 years. The difference is that this time I do not care if she is happy with my decision. Ms. Whitaker smiled, the first genuine smile I had seen from her. That is usually a sign you are making the right choice. Walking out, I felt lighter. Not because the hard part was over, but because I had stopped pretending that fixing this marriage was my job. That afternoon, the text arrived. "Landed. Cannot wait to see you. I have so much to tell you about my realizations. I think this trip was exactly what we both needed. Everything always had to include her. I will be here." I typed. "We definitely need to talk." She had no idea how right she was. She came through the door Tuesday evening like she was returning from a humanitarian mission. "I am back," she announced, dropping her designer luggage in the middle of the hallway where I would have to step around it. "Welcome home," I said from the kitchen table, where I waited with a folder of papers. She did not notice the folder. She scanned the house for evidence of disasters. "It looks exactly the same," she said, almost disappointed. "Did you expect it to look different? I thought maybe you would reorganize something. Show some initiative." 5 minutes back, and already there was a fault. She opened the refrigerator and frowned. "You bought regular beer instead of the craft ones we usually get." I bought what I wanted to drink. Something in my tone made her look at me directly for the first time. "Okay," she said slowly. "We will talk about that later. First, I want to tell you about my trip. It was exactly what I needed. I feel so much clearer now." She pulled out her phone and scrolled. Beaches, restaurant plates, group photos. A man from the bar with his arm around her. "This is Terrence," she said. "He is a marketing executive from Chicago. Such an interesting man. We had amazing conversations about life and relationships." "I'm sure you did," I said. "He helped me put things in perspective. Sometimes you need an outside view to see your situation clearly." "Absolutely," I said. "What else?" "I've been thinking about us, about what is wrong, and I think I know how to fix it. We've gotten stuck in negative patterns. You come home stressed, and that stress affects the whole house. I absorb that energy and react. Then you react to my reaction." I nodded. "Go on." "Terrence helped me realize that if we're going to make this work, you need better ways to manage stress. Maybe therapy or meditation or just leaving work at work instead of bringing it into our space." "Our space," she said, as if my presence contaminated it. "What else did Terrence suggest?" He is not the only one. Rochelle thinks you might have control issues, like when you get quiet while I am making plans or expressing my needs. She thinks that is a form of emotional withholding. Emotional withholding, I repeated. Honestly, I realized how much lighter I felt without that undercurrent of tension. I have been walking on eggshells around your moods for months. You have been walking on eggshells around my moods, I said. Yes. I need you to understand that your emotional state affects me deeply. When you're negative or distant, I become anxious. When I am anxious, I cannot be my best self. She reached across the table and put her hand on mine. The good news is that if you work on managing stress and being more present and positive, we can be happy again. And what do you need to work on? I asked. The question genuinely confused her. What do you mean? What did you realize about yourself? What will you change? She blinked. I need to be more patient with your growth. Change is hard. I cannot expect you to become a completely different person overnight. How generous of you, I said. I'm being serious. I want this to work. I love you, but I love myself too. I refuse to go back to feeling anxious and unhappy in my own home. I pulled my hand back and placed it on the folder. You are absolutely right. You should not feel anxious and unhappy in your own home. I should not feel like I am constantly failing a test I did not know I was taking. Good. So we are on the same page. I opened the folder and slid papers across the table, which is why I found a solution while you were gone. She looked down and her face changed as she read the header. Petition for dissolution of marriage. What is this? It is the solution you asked me to find, I said. You were right. I did not need to think about my mistakes. My biggest mistake was believing this marriage was worth saving. You are joking. Do I look like I am joking? You cannot be serious. You are filing for divorce because I went on a trip with my friends. I am filing for divorce because you went on a trip to escape me, then came home to tell me everything I need to change to make you happy, without considering for 1 second what might make me happy. We can work on this. We can go to counseling. So, you can have a referee while you explain how all our problems are my fault. No, thank you. She stood abruptly, knocking her chair back. This is insane. You are throwing away 3 years of marriage because of one conversation. I am ending 3 years of apologizing for existing while you criticized everything I did, said, or thought. That is not what this was. Really? Name one thing you have apologized for in the past year. One thing you admitted you were wrong about. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. That is not fair. You're putting me on the spot. I'm asking a simple question. When was the last time you took responsibility for any problem in this marriage? I take responsibility. I just told you I need to be more patient with your growth. I almost laughed. Your idea of responsibility is being patient while I become the person you want. Marriage is about compromise, she said. No, marriage is about partnership. What we had was me compromising while you complained. She grabbed the papers and shook them. You cannot just decide this unilaterally. Watch me. For the first time in 3 years, she was speechless. You can stay here tonight if you need to pack, I said, walking toward the stairs. But tomorrow I suggest you find somewhere else to recharge from the stress of being married to me. You are serious about this. As serious as a heart attack. She sank in her chair, staring at the papers like they might disappear. This is not how this was supposed to go, she whispered. No, I said, pausing at the bottom of the stairs. This is exactly how it was supposed to go. You just never considered that I might solve the problem instead of becoming a better problem to live with. As I walked upstairs, I heard her call Terrence. The conversation she had been planning for 5 days was over. And so were we. She spent the night calling everyone she knew, trying to find someone who would agree that I was having a breakdown. He just snapped, she kept saying, out of nowhere. By morning, she was in damage control. I came downstairs to find her at the table with coffee and a notepad like she was preparing a business presentation. I have been thinking all night, she announced, and I understand why you are upset. You felt abandoned when I went on my trip, and you are lashing out. I am not upset, I said. I am not lashing out. I am done. She slid the notepad toward me. She had written a list titled Compromise Solutions. We could try couples therapy. We could plan regular date nights. We could set up better communication guidelines. Every item managed symptoms. None addressed the disease. What is number 7? I asked. She looked down. We could take turns picking weekend activities so you feel more included in decisions. Like children sharing toys, I said. It is about fairness, she said. Fairness would have been asking what I wanted sometime in the past 2 years instead of making a list now, because you face consequences. She snatched the notepad back. Fine. What do you want? Tell me what would make you change your mind. Nothing. Nothing? Come on. Everyone has a price. Everyone wants something. I looked at her and saw someone who still believed this was a negotiation. I want to come home from work without wondering what I did wrong. I want to watch television without commentary about my choices. I want to buy groceries without a lecture. I want to exist in my own house without feeling like I am failing a test. Okay, I can work on that. I want a partner who asks about my day because she cares, not because she is collecting ammunition. I want someone who admits when she is wrong instead of explaining why she's actually right. I want to matter in my own marriage. Her face reddened. I do ask about your day. When? When was the last time you asked and listened without turning it into something about you? She opened her mouth and closed it. This is impossible, she burst out. You are asking me to be a completely different person. I am not asking you to be anything, I said. I'm telling you I am done trying to be whatever person you need. You cannot just give up on us, she said. Marriage is work. You do not quit when things get hard. I worked for 3 years, I said. You complained for 3 years. I was not complaining, she said. I was communicating my needs. Your needs were for me to be someone else. She spun around. And your needs were for me to accept everything and never speak up. My needs were to feel like my wife actually liked me, I said. That stopped her. Of course I like you. Really? Name one thing you like about me that is not something I do for you. She paused. You are reliable. Reliable like a washing machine, I said. That is not what I meant. Then what did you mean? You are stable. You are there when I need you. When you need me to do something for you, I said. You like what I provide, not who I am. She deflated. That is not true. Then tell me something about my personality you enjoy. Who I am when I am not being useful to you. I waited. She stared at the table. You see, I said gently, you do not actually like me. You like the idea of being married, and I am convenient for that. I love you, she said. You love the security I provide. There is a difference. She started crying. The frustrated tears she cried when she could not control a situation. This is not how marriages are supposed to end. They end when one person realizes he deserves more than being tolerated. I said, I do not just tolerate you, she said. I try to help you be better. There it is, I said. You think I need to be better. I am a project, not a person. Everyone needs improvement, she said. Maybe, I said, but the person you marry should be someone you already like, not someone you hope to like once they change enough. I walked to the window. Outside, people went about their Tuesday routines. Work, coffee, traffic, simple problems with simple solutions. I called my mother, she said quietly. What did she say? She said you're probably going through a midlife crisis. I'm 31, I said. She said men sometimes panic when they feel trapped. I am not panicked, I said. I'm not trapped. I am done. Panic is emotional. This is logical. She crumpled the notepad. So that is it. 3 years down the drain because you decided I am not perfect enough. 3 years down the drain because you decided I was not perfect enough, and I finally agreed with you. What is that supposed to mean? It means you were right. We are not compatible. You need someone who enjoys being constantly evaluated. I need someone who likes me as I am. She gathered the papers. Fine, she said, standing. If this is what you really want, I will not fight it. But do not expect me to make it easy. I do not expect anything from you anymore, I said. That is the point. She grabbed her purse. I will be staying with Rochelle while I figure out my next steps. That sounds like a good plan, I said. She paused at the door. You know you are making a mistake, right? You are throwing away someone who cared about making us better. I'm walking away from someone who cared about making me different, I said. The door closed with a soft click. I stood in the sudden silence of my house again, not our space, and felt something I had not experienced in years. Peace. My phone buzzed. A text from Corey. How did it go? I typed back. It is over. She is gone. How do you feel? He asked. I looked around at the living room where I could put my feet up on the coffee table without judgment, at the kitchen where I could eat what I wanted without commentary, and my life, which was mine again. Free, I typed. I feel free. 3 months later, the divorce was final. She kept the car. I kept the house. She took half the savings. I took all the peace of mind. I heard through mutual friends that Alicia is engaged to Terrence now. She is helping him reach his potential. Good luck to him. As for me, I learned something valuable from that trip she took. Sometimes the best way to solve a problem is to step away long enough to see it clearly. She was right about one thing. I did think about my mistakes while she was gone, and then I fixed them. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.